Hey everybody, Lawrence here with Dirty Basement Training, coming at you with another one. RPGs. Tabletop RPGs specifically. There's usually someone at the head of the table running the game. Or not really running it, but just moving the story along. Controlling NPCs, rolling for monsters or enemies, along that lines. Usually, more often than not, there's a screen between the players and the rebel rouser or game master. It can be a simple piece of cardboard. It can be random pieces of junk, but it helps keep certain elements secret from the players, and it can be a very useful tool for a game master. Well, there was a DM screen build challenge that I took part in because, you know, I love challenges. And I now have an utterly disgusting and horrid game master screen. I built this for me to be disgusting and horrific because, well, that's what I like. It's pretty simple to use and set it up, and now my players won't know what I'm doing. But again, this was a challenge piece that I built because I like challenges. They run me through places that I wouldn't normally go. Did I need a game master screen? No. Do I have one now? Yes. Okay, guys. Let me just run you through. And before we actually get into it, I want to give a big shout out to my patrons, Dungeon Matron and Quoro. Your guys' help is greatly appreciated, as always, and it does help the channel. All right, let's get to it, guys.
The baby doll heads off the bodies. And this is pretty simple. I just have to cut all the baby doll heads in half. The back half off, because I want to lay them flat against the XPS that I'm going to be using. Pretty simple. Do that 20 more times. Now I'm going to trace around each baby head that I've already placed on the XPS, so I know where to place it while I'm hot gluing it like I am right now. And it's just do it over and over again. And I'm going to be making like vines, tendrils, veins, whatever you want to call it. But I'm going to crinkle up some aluminum foil here just so to take up space. And of course now I'm just trying to figure out how I want to place it. Cut off a small chunk. Cut a little bit here and there. Once I get where I want it placed, hot glue it in place. Pretty simple, just run hot glue along the sides and on top, because the hot glue will also help take up the space I want to get rid of. And of course now I'm getting one of my favorite tools, Sculpt the Mold. Basically mix it, 2 parts Sculpt the Mold to 1 part water. Now I'm adding some black ink to the water because I want the Sculpt the Mold to be gray. I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to paint the Sculpt the Mold afterwards. I figured gray would be a good color. Of course, hindsight, I should have used brown instead. But anyway, I did this in case, paint ever gets chipped. I won't have bright white showing through. So it won't be as obvious. And then, of course, I'm just smearing a thin coat along all the places where, I don't have any of those, like, veins or the baby heads. Basically all the flat space. I'm going to be using this for a texture, and also it'll help give the XPS a good hard coating, so it'll protect the pieces itself. Of course, the main baby doll, a living dead dolly that I've already cut and laid flat and hot glued on. I've also took some of that aluminum foil I rolled up and to eat up some space. And here I'm just using some DOS clay to eat up even more space. I can basically kind of like sculpt it and smush it into place. It's pretty simple. The DOS clay that I'm using here, I'm just putting in to eat up some space. You could use whatever material you have for this. The reason I used the clay, because it was within arm's reach when I wanted to do it. That honestly is the God's honest truth of why I did it this way. And here I'm just using some milliput, mixing up a chunk because I want to add a little, you know what, I don't know exactly what to call it, but I'm going to be adding some texture to where the joints from the arms to the large baby and its neck to the body. This is mainly just so like I wanted to give it like almost like the skin was stretched, and that was my basic idea, like veins and blood and whatnot, but I figured the milliput would be good for what I want to do. Just make a small sausage piece and basically kind of cram it in there, and I'm grabbing my sculpting tools and just basically getting some lines in. No real rhyme or reason for why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I just thought it looked cool. So that's why I did it. And since I had the milliput still out, I decided, you know what, these doll heads need some gross and just kind of like disease patches and whatnot, and maybe put something over a couple of the eyes. I'm just going for a nasty, disgusting, diseased look. So, and like I said, I had the milliput still out, so that's what I decided to use. And here, you can see I'm just using sculpting tools to add some texture and lines to it. The gross on like the foreheads, I might pop some holes into. I'm just kind of winging it at this point. And I was like, whatever at the moment, whatever in my is in my head at the moment is like, yeah, I'm gonna do that, and that's basically what I did. No real forethought to what I'm doing here. I'm literally just going with whatever seems like a good idea at the moment. I just know I want to go for like a diseased, nasty look. Now I want to add these angle pieces. I couldn't tell you what the actual angle is. These were literally in my scrap bin, and they were both at the same angle, so I was like, that'll do. I'm just basically hot gluing them onto the sides of the centerpiece, and after a few little while, I'll be hot gluing the side pieces on either side to basically give it that angle that screens have. And of course, even though I didn't film it, I did go back and add some of the sculptor mold over top of where this flat part here that you can see. Pretty simple. You just need a slight angle so, your screen will be able to sit up on its own. Of course, here I got a dry erase board that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. Cheap, quick, easy. I want dry erase boards on the the wings of the screen itself, just so I can scribble down quick notes, quick reminders that I don't want to, permanently write down. So I'm going with like these cheap dry erase boards, and I just got to cut it down the size so it'll actually fit for where I want to put it. And of course a little clipboard here that I want to actually have in the center. That way I can basically hang cheat sheets or whatever I need. I don't want to have anything permanently attached to the screen, so I figured the clipboard would be the best way to go. But again, I have to trim it down to size because I didn't think ahead and make sure this back of the screen would be big enough for this stuff. And of course, now that I got everything trimmed down, I need to attach it. I'm just basically tracing around so I know where it's going to sit. So when I do this, add a bunch of glue to it. This is wood glue, but so when I've done, get a good even coat of it, I flip it over. I don't have to try and adjust it. Just put it right down where it's supposed to go. And done for that. And of course I'm going to be doing the same thing with the two dry erase boards on either side. And of course I will come back and add more sculptor mold around on all the flat spots, and maybe put some over on the dry erase boards and the clipboard, just for a consistent good look. But yeah, this is pretty quick and simple to add these. Of course, now that the sculpt mold is dry, I want to add some more tendril, vein, vine things, just to get a little more grody look. So I'm just using the hot glue and just dragging it to wherever I think this is going to look good. Okay, so I'm going to take my homemade texture paste and I'm going to give the hot glue veins, tendril things, some texture just to give it a little more grody, disgusting look. Because a flat, smooth surface that you get with the hot glue after it cools down, I just don't like. So, texture paste. Okay, I want to give all these babies a really disgusting, gross look. So I'm using some baking powder soda here, placing it, and then adding hot glue. This is a little hard to actually control how it turns out, but by placing the spots of the powder first and then adding the hot glue, you can kind of like, you can't really control how it's going to wind up, but you can kind of push it in the right direction. But this will give like naughty, nasty, gross looking, like really diseased looking gross on the babies. And once it dries, I just brush off the excess powder. Okay, now I loved using tentacles. So here I am, I'm just basically going to be gluing in tentacles at random spots that I think will look good. And this one doll baby was missing an eye, and I figured perfect spot. Trim it down to fit. Get some super glue out. Jam it in. And then use some of the baking powder to cure it real quick. I was looking at this and it just needed a little something I wanted to add. So I got some more milliput out. And I decided to add like burst bug holes or like kind of diseased, like if you can see on the cheek of the one baby there, just I wanted like like just diseased pustules that kind of burst, if that makes any sense. I'm not exactly sure what they are, but I just know they look gross and I wanted them. So that's what I'm actually adding now. As you can see, I've already primed this and given it a zenithal highlight. Pretty quick and simple process. But right now, up until now, I hadn't decided what color to go with for the babies. And I decided, well, since it worked pretty well for the bloodhead, the baby blood fountain, I'm going to paint them all gray, like I did there. So, of course, I'm going to base coat anything that's going to have a stone-like appearance to it in a dark gray. Pretty quick. It's pretty simple. You don't have to be super neat with this particular step, but I'm trying to be as neat as possible. And of course, you know, I'm going to go with a medium gray for a mid-tone here. I'm overbrushing. I'm not a heavy dry brush or anything. I'm just overbrushing everything. And it's a pretty simple, easy process. Just anything you want stone, do it. And of course, use my Dollar Tree makeup brush, and I'm going to give it a light gray dry brush on anything, on all the baby heads, bodies, pieces, whatever. Okay, here I'm actually going to hit all those like super glue, baking powder, disease spots, and right now I'm hitting it with a contrast Griffhound orange. I thought, okay, that might be a good spot color to use. I said, up until this point, I hadn't completely made up my mind on how to do this. And I was like, you know what, that's just not working completely. So I grabbed my contrast gut ripper flesh and just added like a few spots of it here, just because, and the two colors are dry, so they're blending together. Now here, anything that I want brown, or kind of like the leather type of deal, I'm just hitting it with a dark brown real quick, a base coat. This is a pretty simple steps, but it works. This is my go-to color of apple barrel burnt umber, but any dark brown will do. And here I'm just giving all the brown an overbrush mid-tone with nutmeg brown, basically a brown. And I'm going for like a set 85% coverage. And then of course afterwards I'm going to give a really light dry brush with a light mocha, like a light, really light brown or a tan. Unfortunately I forgot to film the dry brush part. And here I'm using contrast Blood Angels Red to paint all the vein tendril things, just to give it like a gore look to it, because I do like that type of horror. So again, I'm just trying to get them all hit and get as close to the dirt as I possibly can. And here I'm using my favorite contrast color, Nasdrag Yellow? I can't pronounce that. But it just has such a nasty pus look to it. Yellow ooze pus, that I figured that would be a really good color for all the little wormhole disease pus things that I made. It just looks disgusting, and I like it. And here I'm using some agehide from Speed Paint. I want to get all the little like stretched out parts on the main baby. Honestly, I wasn't completely happy with it, so I did eventually go over it with the contrast Blood Angels Red, just because I thought it looked better. But again, I'm just trying to paint over all these little, the areas where is like where the limbs and the head are like stretched away from the body. I just wanted to give it like a gross and gory look. Because, like, again, I like that type of horror, so that's what I'm going for. Also because it looks pretty. And here I'm using some contrast gut rip of flesh to paint over all the tentacles, tongues, whatever you want to call them. Just because I thought it would look good and gross and disgusting. And of course, after I was done painting them and let it dry, I went back and hit all the, like, the claws or horns or whatever. And here I'm just using some contrast Black Legion, painting all the eyes black, just to give it that hollow look, feel to it. And actually it was Carl over at Carl Makes Stuff that has suggested that I paint gloss on it after they were done drying, and I was like, hadn't fully decided whether or not to do that, but I was like, well, I do have some gloss Mod Podge, so I tried it out on one and really liked it because that gloss over the flat black just cranked the creepy factor up a few notches. So thanks again, Carl, for that suggestion. Now, prior to this step, I had gotten a little frustrated with how the super glue and baking soda disease-looking spots were turning out. I had even tried dry brushing a light gray on them to make it blend in with the skin of the babies, but it wasn't working for me. So I looked on my paint racks and I had this Beal Tan Green shade from Citadel. I was like, well, I've tried a couple other things. Let's try this. And once it was dry, I was actually really happy with it. So now for the final and really gross step. Show how I did all the slime and other gross stuff. Here I'm using 2 drops of burnt umber and 3 drops of I can't even pronounce that name, but it's a green-yellow shade, both Liquitex ink. Putting in the 5-minute epoxy that I got from the Dollar Tree. And whoa! And I also add like an equal amount of isopropyl alcohol. And then I'm just kind of dripping it on wherever it looks good. And just kind of letting it slime down. And of course, what's a disgusting, disease-ridden place without maggots? And yes, those are real maggots. But if you completely cover them up with... These are freeze-dried maggots that are sold as like chicken feed at Walmart. But as long as you give them a complete coat with the epoxy, they'll be fine. And how do I know that? Because a year ago, prior to this video, I used real mealworms and they were completely coated in epoxy and they're still fine. They look just like the day I put them in. So right now I'm just adding the epoxy to wherever it looks good, and I'm going to place maggots wherever it looks appropriate. And here are the wonderful beauty shots. Oh, the creepy babies and maggot goodness. I had a hard time at times with this, but I absolutely love the final product. I hope you guys like it too. And of course, I did put on an EZD6 picture.
Hey everybody, if you made it this far, it means you watched to the end, and as always, I do appreciate it. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more, click subscribe. Come to the Discord and you can talk to me directly. If you want to really help, if you really like the channel and you want to help out, come to the Patreon. There's links to everything down below. But as always, guys, I do appreciate you watching. It makes me want to make more videos. But the thing is, guys, when you're building, if you build a screen, build it to how you want, because it's going to be your screen. But as always, guys, when you are building something, the only person you got to worry about is you, because it's your terrain.